welcome to Crafts and Crime. I'm Amy.
I'm Elaine.
And as always, we have a craft and a crime.
Show enough.
I don't think we said that last week.
We started laughing. Something happened.
You weren't ready.
Oh, that's right. I was like, I'm Elaine and I'm not ready. I usually am. That's why. It's always me.
Oh, my finger's killing me. Last night we did breakfast for dinner.
Mm-hmm. Yum.
And Troy was so excited. He's like, I'm really hungry. Make a lot of eggs. And I'm like, okay. So I did a lot of scrambled eggs and then sausages and homemade hash browns.
Yum.
And so I was like watching a bunch of videos on like how to properly do it. And you have to like, peel them, grate them, soak them, rinse them, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I added
squeeze the shit out of the water to get all that
hard.
water. It is hard.
And
you need a flour sack towel.
I know. And so that's what I use as my towel, my flour sack towel.
Squish the heck out of it.
Yeah, and I added egg into it because it was just falling apart. So I just added egg to have like a binder.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I was grating the potatoes, since they're slippery, look what I did. I grated my finger.
Some skin.
Yep, I was like, somebody got some skin because it's white. I'm like, I can't see it, but whatever.
I'll usually just like whoop.
I know. I kind of like scooped
Yep.
out like off the cheese grater.
Like it's somewhere in there. I got it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I got it. But yeah, so I totally.
People are like, damn, I'm not fucking eating at their house.
Have you seen that? You can't always eat at everyone's house. So. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
It's like we're like gross stuff, and then it's like the song, you can't always eat at everybody's house or something like that. It's like
nightmares.
Yeah, so someone got skin. No, I'm pretty sure I like cleared it off the grater because I was like ew, but it would not stop bleeding last night.
They're so weird how bad they bleed when that happens.
Yeah, so
no.
I was like, I knew that was gonna happen. I was I called it because I got a slippery potato.
Now I want tater tots real bad.
Yeah, we had a bunch of potatoes, so I used a whole bag of potatoes and made a bunch of hash browns. It was really good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've been eating a lot of potatoes lately because they're cheap.
Yeah.
So we've been basing a lot of our dinners around. But yeah, what were we just talking about? Oh, I don't remember.
I know.
No. Lillian tore that thing out of her. Is it still over here?
Oh.
I don't
yeah,
remember
it's
where I
pushed
put it.
back
yeah.
there.
So my youngest had to get a tooth pulled because it was just like not work. It was a cavity, but it was like, they were like, nah, we'll just pull it. It was like a big cavity, a bad one. And so they pulled it and they put it in this little metal spacer thing. And it was just bugging her nonstop. And she kept complaining about it. And she kept saying it hurt. And so she pulled it out of her mouth. She like just, I don't know how, because they like cemented it in there. I don't know, but
it probably, the thing is what I was saying is she's getting older. That tooth is probably working its way in, or the soft palate of her mouth is going to change. It probably was ready to come out at some point.
Yeah.
Or at least it should maybe it needed to be adjusted or something. It was a year almost.
Was it almost a
year
ago? Oh, well.
Yeah, so... Well, no, it'll be a year this summer.
Yeah.
But that's still like, her mouth might have shifted.
Yeah, and so I was like, is it really necessary? Because her teeth are pretty spaced far apart naturally, so it's not like she has like Lincoln's teeth are all tiny together. Hers are tiny, but like she's got some space in there, so I don't think her teeth are going to shift that much. I don't know. So, yeah, she yanked it out of her mouth, and she had like, it was obviously bugging her gums because it was like too big and dense like in her skin. Yeah. Oh. So I feel bad. I'm like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that does really blow.
So her gums are all inflamed.
Probably was something that should have been adjusted. Like maybe they would have adjusted it. So
I don't know, but yeah, it was bugging her ever since she got it. Like, man, she's tough. She's just like, I'm gonna yank this out of my mouth.
That like
it scares me. And I'm
nightmares.
Like, she's like, I just pulled this out of my mouth that was hurting, and I'm like, what? The heck?
Yeah, that's so freaky.
It was so weird, but
I wonder how loose it was. So maybe it was loose.
Maybe
because you know how you get a blister from a loose shoe, just like you will a tight one. So if it was loose, just wiggle, just dig it in
maybe.
over and over.
I don't know, but I know it was crazy. I'm like, man, she's tough.
That is bananas.
But yeah. So and then your husband's dealing with a tooth thing, and
no, he does. He has a wisdom tooth left that he needs. He has 2 wisdom teeth, both on the right side that he needs to get taken out, and But he was saying he's feeling a lot better today. So the antibiotics he got are either helping, or the ibuprofen's helping, or just whatever. When he rinsed, it hurt, and I think now
cleared
it's
out,
like
whatever.
just figuring. It's just the inflammation calmed down some. But it's never a bad idea to take an antibiotic before you have a dental work thing. They'll do it anyway. So this helps, because when I get the appointment made for him so he can take off the time, he'll already be able to be like, I just cleared a course, like, go ahead, we don't have to wait. Because they did that like a year or two ago when he went to the dentist too. They were like, all right, here's a Z-Pack, do this, you have to do this before to make sure. It's weird.
I know, I hate
nobody
stuff.
I don't know, maybe somebody does like the dentist. That makes me think of oh my god, in the Little Shop of Horrors, how the dude's like he's like a masochist, and so he loves the dentist because they're hurting him.
So weird. I'm like, I don't know.
In the original one, it was Jack Nicholson. In the remake, it was Bill Murray. And they were like, oh yeah. They were loving it. It was so dumb, but I love that movie.
Yeah, so I keep going back and forth. I'm like, do I make an appointment? Do I put it back in? Does she really need it? It's kind of like,
whenever she did, like, just do her cleaning appointment, like, and then just be like, hey, look.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out then. They'll do the x-rays like they always do and see what they need to do.
I know we're coming up on if she needs to. I
hate it.
Stuff.
I really do.
Yeah.
We hang out too much. It's hilarious. And it's going to get even funnier because I mentioned to you, when you hear my craft, you're going to be like, what?
Really? I know
It's just going to crack you up a little bit. It's not the same, but our brains are still connected.
Way. Like, okay, well, then just get into it, because now I'm curious. Because we were sitting over next door at your house, and
I was like, you're gonna be like, what? And then, but then it's just funny.
And because right now Jack's installing the dishwasher because our dishwasher broke.
We had to get it from my garage.
Yeah, and I was gonna take a video. Yeah, because we got a free dishwasher off Facebook Marketplace because we had an old dishwasher, and so we're like, hey, this is newer, we'll put it in. It's a Samsung, so of course it like stopped working after like a year.
Did you mean like completely stop working?
Yeah, so I was gonna I told you how loud it was. It was so loud. I was sitting in the living room, I couldn't even hear the TV.
It was just rattling. It's death
and
rattle.
So I was gonna take a video to send you, and I was like, man, it's really quiet, it's not even making any noise. And I opened it up and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And so it just completely stopped working. Oh no. So I can't even give it away for free. I'm like, I'm gonna have to, I don't know.
Well, hey, it's a new year. Just save it till you have like a bulky load pickup and put everything out at the same time.
Yeah. Well, if we get a new dishwasher, I just
they do the pickup.
The pickup. It's like $50 or something like that.
But then you have two. Well, I guess you put that one back in my garage.
No. Well, if it works, then you could have it. So Jack's doing that, putting our old one back in from your garage. So we were back there, and Troy scared shit out of me walking behind me in your house, and I hear a guy talking. I'm like, is Kurt home? Like,
I really need to be more aware.
And it was I was sitting like,
no, I know, but that's just like, I left the front door open because we were gonna leave. But it's just, it's so weird.
But so Troy just walks in the house. He's like, hey, where's the dishwasher? I was like, oh my God. So Jack's now putting our old crappy dishwasher back so we can at least do dishes until we can buy a new one. But so we were out there talking about your crap. Well, not talking about your crap, but you mentioned it.
Yeah,
so
because we keep it a secret. Again, we keep it a secret until the day we do it. And someday we're going to crack up because we're going to have the same exact thing. But I just think it's fun because the way that we've always run this, if you're new here, is like, we, of course, are talking to you guys, but we're basically just like, hey, guess what, Amy? I learned this. So, like, you're just bringing up a topic, a case that probably the other person hasn't heard of, or a craft that we want to do a deep dive into. So we've had a couple that were like so close together in what they were, or you were like, oh my God, I was thinking of doing that, or I was like, oh my gosh. So last week, your episode was flower sacks.
Yeah, flower sack dresses.
There we go.
Pretty much.
But like also the history of the flower. So as soon as you said flower, I was like, what the fuck? Mine is flower pressing.
Oh.
So as soon as you said it, I was like,
flower.
oh no. Yeah. And I was like, it's so funny. Hilarious.
And
right?
you know what's crazy is
What are
I
you thinking
literally
about?
was going to do that because over the weekend, last weekend, it was Super Bowl Sunday, and I was showing Jack and Gabe the One Line a Day book that I had, and I went back and I was like, oh yeah, look, like you guys come up like a couple times, like when they would come over with the kids, and I had a pressed flower in there with a description of like Troy gave me a flower or whatever, or Lincoln did, and then another one that was a leaf that Lincoln gave me. And he, and he was like, it's a haut leaf. And it's a little tiny leaf that's shaped like a heart. And so I saved it in there. It's a haut leaf. So I was like, I should do flower pressing. I almost did. And
the amount of times
this morning,
we have done this.
I told you,
did it.
I was like, I'm not like in
Were
love
you
with
going to swap?
Yes. So it could have happened. I was totally going to swap. I was so close, but I had flour on the brain. Maybe that's why, but I was like, no.
Okay, well, I am totally into, like, we have mentioned this before, is like, eventually we are going to get into videos and shorts and tutorials and all kinds of different things. And we do plan on trying to recreate as many of these crafts as possible. Yeah. And like, I know some of them that I can teach Amy, and she knows some that she can teach me. And then we're going to kind of do some like, nailed it, and try to see what we can do. And so we'll try a few different ways.
I found the paper making kit.
Cute. Yeah.
So we could do paper.
And you could put fresh flowers in it.
Oh, yay.
And see, I grow a really big wildflower patch every year, and I need to get that started, but I need to put like netting, and then we'll like have the own flowers from our garden. Yeah. This summer. That'll be fun. Maybe we'll do like a giveaway of some handmade paper.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay, so we have loved flowers for all eternity. Humans have always loved beautiful, pretty things. We've always liked to keep pretty things. It's in our nature, like, ooh, shiny. Like, we've always had a squirrel brain.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Like, ooh, I got it. I'm going to keep this. Yeah, exactly.
I know, because we'll be by your wildflower bed and just be talking, and I'm like, ooh, what's that one? That's a new one.
Oh my gosh, it is so fun and exciting. I have one bush left. It's I think it's a coneflower, a yellow coneflower, and they're dying, but they survive for a long time.
Yeah.
So we've always loved flowers and keeping beautiful things. And inside of a 3,000-year-old coffin of the tomb of Tutankhamun's mom, there were pressed laurels and flower gardens that were laid to rest with her. So even like in funerary processions, we're still always giving out flowers, and these beautiful things could be taken with her because they were flattened. And so and I really love that. And we get to our earliest written record of official like flower pressing as an art form started in the 1500s in Japan. And it is called oshibana, and it literally translates to pressed flowers.
Okay.
But oshibana is like, it's so much more than just like how we like to keep flowers. Exactly like you said, putting them between the pages of a book or something.
Yeah.
These are tiny micro masterpieces made with any kind of thing. Lichen, they're made in like a shadow box form.
Okay.
So there's pressed flowers, pressed leaves, ornamental grasses that are like split and tiny segments. It's magical. Okay. And of course, this will be in a picture.
Yeah.
I'll have some examples. And they adhere them to pieces of silk or pieces of paper. Go back. I talked about that too in the very beginning. Of handmade paper, old linens, and then they were kept. And these were like full, complete scenes and still lifes. Really similar to the decoupage, that like the tiny little bits of flower pieces that were the decoupage. It's like it would be more than just like, oh, I picked a petal and made a picture.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the decoupage.
Yeah.
How it's like you can, you can like use different things to make a scene or whatever.
Exactly. And the this is super cool. It's said that in the 16th century that samurai actually had to master the art of oshibana because it gave them dexterity, worked on their concentration, patience, and also as like a meditative, just being one with nature, because they would collect these pieces and then you had to wait for them to be dry. So like it's this big process. I'm like, I love that. Within the next several hundred years, the way that flower pressing evolved just slightly was from burgeoning scientists going through the forest and collecting these specimens and being able to bring them back, a lot of them, so they were smooshed as flat as they possibly could be. And in Japan, when we had first started talking about oshibana itself, the process has always been the same, just like in paper making. It was like they had some leftover cotton fabric, some leftover silk fabric, and it's like fabric, material, fabric, and then they smushed it under something heavy.
Yeah.
We've always done it. We all figured out a way. It's always been the same. One of the ways that this changed a little bit too, around the same time of the 16th, and it's still something that they do now, but it really came about in the 1800s, was people started traveling, like boat liners were huge and trains and things. So it made traveling better. And the area of the Holy Land, which is a space that's considered to be like through the Mediterranean Sea and up to the eastern side of the Jordan River and parts of Palestine, Israel. So these are still items that you can get, but it really blossomed as an art form over there, as these souvenir books would be made with olive wood front and back covers. And then the descriptions and stories and pictures of the holy sites would have pressed plants and flowers that are local to the area. And I was like,
okay,
that's really
that's
pretty.
cool.
Yeah. And they still do this now. It's still a thing that you can get. I mean, I understand it's technically like a souvenir, but it's really beautiful. And back then there was a ton of care put into it, and I'm sure it is still now. Of course, flower pressing took off in the Victorian times because it was such a delicate, feminine, ladylike art that you could do with your needlework and stuff. And it really took a lot of time to do as well. So long projects worked out when you didn't have a lot of other things to do. So, but it's very similar. We do the same. I personally do the same thing. They would collect flowers from their funeral arrangements and press those. Wedding, birthdays, they just like us. Your boyfriend gave you a flower and you would dry it, or you would smash it in your diary. And so they did the same exact thing. As time came forward, not much, but still around the 1800s, a very simple invention came about, which was just 2 wooden square boards with holes drilled in it. And then they would line the paper or their linen sandwich, flowers in the middle, and then belt it together. So you're just wood board, fabric, natural materials, fabric, board, belted together. And you cinch it shut and you just leave it, and the air holes help with natural ventilation, and so that mold doesn't. I've had that happen, and it sucks
me too.
so bad. It's just too damp and it doesn't dry fast enough, and then they get moldy. So the holes made for really great airflow. Because drying flowers has always been its own art form as well. It was a really popular thing that they did in the Regency time, which is the 1700s, 1600s, 1700s. Ladies would go in the meadow and trim their garden and then make these dried bouquets and hang them, and they were really beautiful. But anyway, that's something else.
I've ruined a book when I was younger. It was just too wet. But you take like your paper towel, and then you put your flower in the middle of the paper towel, but it was just too wet, and so it got the book all moldy.
Oh no!
I mean, it wasn't a special book or anything. It was just a big book.
It still sucks.
It's probably like an encyclopedia,
or a dictionary. You're like, I don't need this anymore. Luckily, we came through to developments in science, and that gave us silica. So those little desiccant packages that are like, do not eat. Inside of those is little silica beads, and those absorb moisture. And so the silica that is available for florals is like a sandy
Oh.
texture. So you can get in all the nooks and crannies of your flowers. And that enables you to be able to nestle a whole rose head in that and sprinkle it in between, open up the petals, and it will dry the whole thing out. It does retain a decent amount of color, but it's going to be very dull still. And it does still take a decent amount of time, depending on, like, if you could dry an orchid, but those are so thick and waxy, it's going to take so long to do. So you're not necessarily getting a faster result. You're getting a better, safer, not moldy result. And the silica is reusable.
Oh, okay.
So it's not going to stain like your linen. I would be worried about like a dark purple if you're trying to press a white rose, you know, so you're not going to want to use the same linens. So it still can take time. Maybe a daisy is going to take 5 days, but it's not going to be pressed. It is a little different, but it is what came through because you could press it and say after a day or two, it's going to retain that shape. You could transfer it before it's so brittle you can't. And it does almost retain a flexibility still to the petals. And it's not too expensive. Off the top of my head right now, if you look in the floral department of here in the United States, it would be Michael's or Joann's. I think you can get like a 5-pound bag of it. It's like $20.
Oh, okay.
And it's never on sale, so you can always use the coupon. I really, really looked hard trying to find when this was invented. And I'm super bummed out because I just kept looking this morning and I'm sad I couldn't find it. But Jenny B. Croft she invented and patented a tool called the microfleur flower press. And it's very similar to how I explained with our wooden situation. But her kit comes with 2 thick plastic square platens, is what it's called. And they have holes drilled in it. And then it comes with 2 wool pads, a pack of linens, and then 4 clips.
Okay.
And the way this item is used is the same way. You put your platen and then the wool. Then your linen fabric, your natural materials, linen fabric, wool pad, platen. And then you should be able to slide the 4 clips on each edge of the square. There shouldn't be any resistance. If there's resistance, you put too much thick material in there. You don't want that. So then you put it in the microwave.
What?
Microfleur. Yep, you put it in the microwave. And you do, I can't remember exactly. I did look at the instructions, but first you start out with, I think, a 45-second burst. And then you just do small 20-second bursts. There's no rhyme or reason. You just have to keep checking.
What?
But it retains like the most color. Like it looks fresh.
Yeah.
And smashed. Yep. They're amazing. So I will put a picture of that too.
I'm like trying to picture it.
But yeah, it's really, really cool. And I love that. And so I really tried looking, but the way that sadly, I don't think she's alive anymore, but the age of the book and the style of the design, that has never changed. Looks pretty 70s. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, because flower pressing, a lot of crafts picked up during the hippie and like disco era. Handicrafts was a thing. We've talked about that in past episodes. And so flower pressing came back, and I'm thinking she probably made it around then.
Okay.
But I really tried looking and it bothers me. I can't. I'm like, I have to figure it out. I'll ask Crystal. She'll find it.
Yeah.
So I have a little fun fact, because that's it. Flower
really?
pressing.
Yeah, it's pretty
it hasn't changed.
self-explanatory.
That was, she invented that. And I'm like, that's the coolest thing. That there are lots of other people that did it, but I think she did that one first. And so there is one version I saw that was kind of cool, just like some Amazon, whatever. And that one was a microwave press, but it was weird. It was like clear, and I think you used it a little differently. But the way I always did it as a kid was I always did wax paper, and it would never stick.
Yeah,
but
I just did paper towels.
I'm like, I can't think of and parchment paper later. Okay, so I have one little really cool, not like a fun fact, but just like a cool little historical thing.
Okay.
In 2016 in Lancashire, a dig site was unearthed that found a 3,000-year-old ritual offering hoard, is what it's called. And so it's tons of things, everything, plates and cups, goblets, armor, clothing, weapons, everything that would be like given in a ritual offering that would be maybe taken with you to the afterlife. And there was an axe, which it was like battle axe style, not huge, like a hand axe as a weapon. It had a hollow handle, and upon opening the bottom of it to open it up, it was meant to hold something, they could tell. It contained a perfectly intact, I mean, it's ugly, but it's still amazing, a perfectly intact, pristine, pressed thistle flower.
Wow.
In the handle. So I was
cool.
like, dang. So I'm wondering if it was like off in the because like Lancashire, Britain. So I'm like, oh, maybe it came from Scotland. That's like their national flower. It has been forever. And I was like, the thistle.
That's cool.
Isn't that neat? Like, not even that long ago.
Yeah.
So the thing is, between the pressed laurels and the flower garlands that they found 3,000 years ago, like these are the two like oldest that you can tell was like had meaning and purpose. Like it was on purpose that they put it there. And so to be so intact is so cool. I mean, it looks like it looks like a beef jerky, you know, it's so dark, but it's still so cool because like they have a little, I'll put it in too. So I'll have a few pictures on Instagram for that. But yeah, so when we're done, I'll show you, because we're going to do our sources and stuff, and I'll show you. But oh my God, it's so cool.
Yeah, that sounds so cool.
And I have a friend that does, technically she does though, Shibaru Bonu. Shibana. Dang, I already messed it up.
I have seen like the flower preservation for like wedding bouquets and stuff, and one of them that's really cool is like the resin. Have you seen that, where they like she'll assemble it and make it into like a side table or something, and so she'll put the wedding bouquet like all in there and then pour the clear resin in, and then it's like your whole wedding bouquet is like a side table. Like, but it's only like that thick or whatever. So I'm like, we've been preserving flowers forever, and now it's just getting fancier. And I'm like, that totally would not work. Like my wedding bouquet, I could not have saved that. Like, because it's all, well, no, the roses are kind of big. So I don't know, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know why I opened my email habit. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So this case, once again, I didn't know anything about it until I started researching it. It sounded interesting. So this is the case of Henry Stange. So June 1st, 2018, so not that long ago, in Joshua Tree National Park, a hiker notices a bunch of vultures circling around something that he thought was like a dead animal. And so he didn't really think too much about it. And he like took a few pictures of like the area and stuff and like whatever they were circling. And it's kind of off in the distance. And then he just like goes on with his hike. And the next morning, he's telling his wife about like seeing all the vultures and thought it was pretty cool. And he's like, oh, look at these pictures that I took. And so she's looking and she's like, I don't think that looks like a dead animal. Yeah. It kind of looks like it might be a person.
Oh, no.
So they decide to contact Joshua Tree National Park and tell them, like, this is what I found. And I don't know, my wife's thinking it's probably a body. But either way, like, you should, go and take a look. So Ranger Ben Brown went out to the area where the vultures were, and they were actually still there. Along with a coyote, which was like a little odd to see together at the same time at this time of the day. Like coyotes wouldn't be going out with vultures. So oh no. The ground was disturbed. So it appeared that whatever they were all feeding on was partially buried. And he could tell from even like a bit far away that it was the bottom half of a human body. And it was clear this is not a natural occurrence because, it's partially buried. And it looked like the body had been there for about 2 weeks. Yeah. So Ranger Brown then calls into the Riverside County Sheriff's Office in order to get homicide out to help. So when detectives show up, it's clear that the body had been dug up by animals, and it was a middle-aged white male, and it was clear that he had been murdered and buried. So the grave was about 2 feet by 2 feet, so not a very well dug grave. Like,
pretty lazy.
Yeah.
They probably realize it's hard as hell to dig out there.
Yeah. And the upper part of the torso was put into the grave on its side.
Oh.
And the bottom part of the body wasn't buried very well. I think they just like shoved dirt over it. So it was like, they probably started burying and like, oh, let's put as much of him as we can in the hole, this tiny hole that we dug, and this tiny little boop, and just shove him in there, and just called it a day. So there was no evidence at the scene to indicate that the crime was committed there. So they determined it was committed elsewhere, and then the body was brought out to the desert to be buried. There was no indication of recent human activity at the crime scene. Like I said, it was about a couple weeks it had been there, and there was no physical evidence at the scene. So the killer obviously didn't know what they were doing, and in a panic state, like trying to hide the body, didn't dig far enough down in order.
It's so dumb. It's not funny, but we're just like how fucking
stupid, because the animals are gonna dig it up, so I'm sure like the coyotes came, and then the
none
vultures
of these people
were
are ever
like,
smart.
Yeah. So the remains were taken to the Riverside County Coroner's Office for autopsy. And this is so weird because this is in California. Riverside County, we border Riverside County because San Bernardino County, and like it's literally a drive down the freeway and you're in Riverside County. So it's like really close to us. So it's just so weird because I'm like, hey, my mom worked in Riverside for like forever.
It is weird, but
yeah. So at autopsy, it was found that there were like really bad skull fractures. The cause of death was mass blunt force trauma to the head. The manner of death was homicide. It was also apparent at autopsy that he was not dead when he was buried. So he wasn't all the way dead.
That means they found it in his lungs or throat.
So a fingerprint was able to be lifted, and the prints caught a match in the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, database to 54-year-old Henry Stange from Murrieta, California.
That's weird.
It's so close.
But it's like the Inland Empire is really big, and we've lived here for so long. Like, you learn all those, but you're like, ooh, that was down here.
Yeah, it was really close.
Because the Joshua Tree National Forest is like 4 hours long.
Yeah,
like, you can't
huge.
pinpoint. It's gigantic.
Yeah, so this
goes
was
all
like
the way through Nevada.
So this was, really close to us because I'm like, Murrieta, we passed through Murrieta to get to Shannon's house.
Yeah.
My friend's house, yeah.
Yeah.
Or do I pass through Murrieta or is Murrieta after? I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, so it's out there. Murrieta, California. I know your microphone again.
Wow, that sounds really clear.
What, without it?
Yeah. My spit guard.
Yeah. So, so real close to us. So when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh. Because like you said, you hear the desert and you're like, oh my gosh, that's like, who knows? It could be in Nevada or whatever. But nope, he's from Murrieta, California. So then the sheriff's department calls Murrieta police to let them know that they are going to Henry's house in Murrieta to execute a search warrant. And if they found anything, they would notify them to take over the investigation because jurisdiction, it's like
that's so weird.
Riverside, sheriff's office, Riverside County Sheriff's,
right?
It's
so
like
weird.
we'll do local police. Or whatever, so. I know, it's so confusing. So the sheriff's department arrives at Henry's house and there's nobody there and everything is all locked up. They then have to, of course, force entry into the house, and inside there's nothing indicating that there was any trouble inside the house. And, everything looks pretty normal and clean. And, at first glance, and then they go into the garage and there was a lot of blood in the garage.
Uh-oh.
It was clear, like that's where the murder happened. The Murrieta Police Department obviously was then called in to take over the investigation. There was, like I said, blood everywhere. It's all over the, all over the garage. And there's a big pool of blood on the floor. And so looking at the blood, they could tell that there was a fight and Henry ended up on the ground and was attacked there. And that's most likely where the skull fractures occurred. So blood samples were gathered in the hope that like his killer left some at the scene.
Yeah.
And there's no fingerprints or shoe impressions left behind at the scene. But there was a strong smell of bleach. So the killer tried to clean up.
Yeah.
And once again, like how he
Not
was buried.
smart enough to do anything.
Exactly. And just like how he was buried, it's just like they
Everything was
freaking out, frantic, rushed, and
we hear stuff like this with so much. We're like, what a loser.
It is.
It's just
what
like,
a dumbass.
why would you kill someone and then fuck up all the rest of what's... It's just dumb. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's just so weird to me that you would put your whole existence on the line by taking another person's life, and then you can't even do any of that shit right.
Yeah.
That sounds so wrong, but
like,
it's just so
there was
dumb.
so much blood. There's no way they could have cleaned it all up.
Yeah.
There's no way. There was blood
Gross.
splatter everywhere. So, yeah. So, no evidence was, going to be erased. There was plenty of it there. And the killer, though, did end up removing recording devices from Henry's house.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Like stealing or just hiding stuff of what they did?
I think to hide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What they did, because then they would be on surveillance. So, a little bit about Henry. He was really close to his mom and his sisters. He was an avid outdoorsman and enjoyed being outdoors. And at the time of his murder, he was in the process of getting divorced from his wife of 10 years. They had 2 small kids, and their marriage had come to an end after Henry was in a motorcycle accident. He was hit by a drunk driver while standing next to his bike, putting on his helmet, and he was hit and then dragged about a half a mile.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he held onto the bumper of the car as he was being dragged. Yeah. So his leg was really badly damaged in the accident, and he was never able to walk without assistance again. Like he needed a cane or whatever. So he also needed to depend on painkillers in order to get through his day-to-day. And this made it hard to work, and he ended up spending all of his free time on his ham radio. Makes me think of my grandma.
Oh.
I think that's what it was that she did. I think it was a ham radio, and then she got in trouble because she didn't have a permit or whatever.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Because you could be a spy.
Yeah. So he was described for his ham radio broadcasts or whatever. He was described as the Howard Stern of ham radio. So because he never knew what he was going to say, and so a lot of people didn't like him and what he was saying. So but he was on his ham radio every single day. He always every day would check in,
probably where he found his joy and comfort from his pain.
Yeah. And so it was routine every single day. But after May 24th, he never went back on. So this was most likely the day that he was killed.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So looking into his ham radio life, it's apparent he's really, controversial. And he had developed some enemies. Enemies. Over the last year. And he had called his sister and said, in January, and said that he was attacked with a hammer.
What?
Yeah. So but the person ran off, so he decided, okay, I need to set up some surveillance around the house, somebody doesn't like me. So detectives are now thinking that whoever attacked him in January returned in May to finish the job. Yeah, so like I said, it's a small community. People didn't really like him because of his ham radio. They didn't like the things he said.
Yeah.
And
so don't listen to his fucking radio show.
Seriously. I don't know. People
Your
like
kids
drama.
shouldn't be listening. Seriously. I'm I get it. You don't like it, but we kind of swear a lot. We don't our girls don't listen to this. I think my oldest maybe checks in. I think she said one of her little friends listens to us.
Oh, really?
And I think that's adorable. But the average, in general, we children shouldn't, little kids shouldn't listen to this.
Exactly.
So why does it matter what you say? Don't freaking listen to it. If you don't like us, that's totally okay. But we're not forcing you. We're not forcing children.
We're
come
not
on.
forcing you to listen to us.
It's so weird. And so for him, that's so sad to be put down and treated badly because your hobby is like, even if it's political and you hate it, he's not spouting it from a bullhorn. He's
on ham radio.
Sorry.
Exactly.
That gets me all
No,
heated.
I get it. And that's like anytime
censorship.
anytime I recommend our podcast to anyone, I'm always like, oh, by the way, we say bad words, like just in case that's not your thing. But I mean,
It's
we are
Elaine Mosley.
I know. I think I have more restraint because I have a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
I have a lot of kids. So, but anyway, so yeah, it's the same thing. Like they just didn't like him. But but there were two brothers in this ham radio community that would antagonize and threaten him on an online forum. So there was like,
Did he have a handle? Sorry.
I don't know. I didn't see that. I didn't look into it.
I bet it was funny.
Yeah, probably. So they're like, okay, there's these two guys who possibly could, they were threatening him and stuff, didn't like him. So then they talked to his estranged wife and learned that she hadn't lived in the house for a while. And she was really honest with detectives, and she was like distraught over his death because, it's like
the dad of her kids.
Yeah.
That still sucks.
She was like, she said, even though they were divorcing, she had no ill will towards them. And it's her kid's father. Her kids are now suffering because their father's dead.
Forever in a horrific way. Not just something.
Not just like.
It's like, of course, you don't need to tell them at this age, but one day they're going to want to know.
Yeah.
And like, come on, that's something they're going to have to deal with forever. You're going to have to deal with it forever. It's so sad.
Oh, I know. Because like I lost my dad when I was young, but it was a car accident and I knew. And so, yeah, it's really sad for the children. And I think that's why she was so upset because it's like, oh my gosh, I got to tell my children. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So she didn't appear to have anything to do with this. And she was able to provide detectives with bills for the house because she was still paying the bills. Wasn't living there, but still had some bills. And so this was useful for the detectives because they were able to narrow down when he was possibly killed. They already knew from the ham radio thing, May 24th, he did a broadcast and then nothing after that. So they look and she had actually noticed that on May 24th, the energy usage at the house basically stopped. Like there was nothing.
Okay, I get it now. I was like, how would that be helpful? I was like, I know you're going to tell me.
Because,
okay,
on your bill,
if nobody's
that's
turning
still,
on the lights,
that's still
opening.
Edison, Riverside County, Marietta is Edison.
They have everywhere down here monopolized. I think SoCal Edison has all of the last 5 hours of driving distance.
So you can see, I'm sure as any other energy company, you could see hourly usage, you could see daily usage, monthly, all of that. You could break it all down. So she knows that May 24th, it's it stopped. It's what the heck?
Dang.
Which is weird. It's I don't know. Maybe
even if I'm sick, I'm still having to turn on the bathroom light. I'm still having to open up the fridge to do something.
Yeah. So it was probably just he's not watching the TV. Obviously, there's no lights on, nothing. So, this May 24th, same day as the ham radio stopped. So they knew, okay, this must be the day that he was killed.
Yeah.
So she also shared that he had a new girlfriend named Ashley Stapp. She was really young. She was 27.
How old did you say he was again?
54.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
she's an adult.
Yes.
But that's a big age difference.
It is.
That's a very different mental frame of mind as well.
So it was okay.
Did he have money from the accident?
No. I don't think so.
No, lawsuit that he won a bunch of money? Okay.
No,
not everybody that has an age gap is money hungry. I was just wondering.
No.
Because sometimes that would be why.
Yeah.
Motive, that's what I'm talking about here. Okay.
Well, we'll get into it.
Okay.
But their relationship went really fast. The neighbors said that they saw Ashley all the time there and said that she drove a blue Honda with some damage to the front end. So they knew, okay, this is what she drives. They also said that the last day that they saw her car drive by was when the police showed up to search the house. So she had driven by the house at some point. When they were searching the house.
That's weird. Maybe she drove by and was like, what the fuck? I'm leaving.
Yeah,
and so
probably.
Didn't know what was afraid.
So they knew, okay, we need to talk to her ASAP because it's odd that she never reached out to family after not being able to get a hold of Henry all this time.
Or go to his house.
Go
ask the police officers, I'm his girlfriend. Can anybody tell me anything?
What's going on?
Or have somebody get a hold of me oh my God. Okay, that's
weird. Ashley lived just north of Murrieta, so she's pretty close to the area. And detectives are now wondering, why they might have like connected in the first place. Like
Yeah.
how do they hook up? And they find out that she had a history of abusing prescription drugs.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
So they are thinking that she was with Henry for easy access to his Oxycontin.
So I was still kind of right, but
Yeah.
instead of money hungry, she was
She was pill hungry.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
So
Which is freaking sad, too.
Yeah.
Sad for everybody.
yeah.
Dang.
So searching for Ashley online, they can see that she was actually already in a serious relationship
Oh, snap.
with Curtis Kruger.
Damn, that's a cool name.
I knew you were going to say that. Curtis Kruger.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
You would have totally changed your name like that if that was Kurt's last name. You would not have hesitated.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, so sorry. All of this isn't a laughing matter, but that
No,
name, I knew you were going to
that's a
say
badass
that.
name.
Yeah. So his name is Curtis Kruger, and he was a first lieutenant in the U.S. Marine Corps. And so they're now wondering if this was a love triangle gone wrong.
And that, I'm sorry, but like the way that the military works, you reflect the company you keep. That would be very bad for him if they knew that if he knew that she had like a drug issue,
problem?
those kinds of things. That's not looked upon well.
Yeah.
Dang.
So phone records show where Ashley and Curtis were around the suspected time of the murder. And those records show that they were both in the area of Henry's house the day of the murder.
What the hell?
Yeah. They didn't have any physical evidence to connect them to the crime scene.
Was it like the ping from the phone?
Yes, they only knew that, okay, they must have been there. So they decide we're going to get a wiretap.
Nice. That's so weird.
Yeah. So detectives need to come up with a plan to try to get Ashley and Curtis to talk about the crime on the phone. Because, like, why would they talk about it on the phone? You know, I don't know. So Ashley had a brother that lived across the street from the police station. So they go over to her brother's house, show him a picture of Ashley and Henry together, and ask him if he knew who was in the picture. So he says he didn't know the guy, but the woman's his sister. And so they ask him to ask his sister if she can identify the man in the photo. And he's like, sure, no problem. So they're hoping that getting the picture from her brother would prompt her to panic and call Curtis. It worked.
Damn, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, it worked. Within 30 minutes of giving her brother the photo, they were notified that Ashley was talking to her brother on the phone.
Bum, bum, bum.
He tells her, quote, so this morning, the police came to my door, some detectives, and they were asking if I knew any information on a crime. They showed me a picture of this dude that I've never seen before and you, and they say that they found it at his house. Ashley then tells him, quote, I don't know where that picture's taken, and I don't know what crime it would be. After she hung up with her brother, she immediately called Curtis panicked.
Oh, snap.
Curtis says, quote, we pulled in close enough. I guarantee you with the width of the roof, it wouldn't have showed he was loaded in the back of my truck.
Damn.
Yeah. They continue to
Sorry for
incriminate
everybody's
themselves.
ears.
Yeah. They just continue to talk about it and incriminate themselves.
How dumb.
To connect to the crime. Ashley says, quote, but like it just made me wonder if a neighbor or something said like, yeah, I saw a black truck leaving.
Yeah,
Like,
she's
so
freaking out. She
freaking
can't even
out.
put a sentence together.
So Curtis then says, quote, it was that dumb girl that waved bye to us when we were leaving, I'm sure.
Oh.
So they continued to
Ew,
incriminate
with the body
them.
in their car. They're like, bye.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Because
Because they probably saw her at the house often.
Yeah,
It's
so they
like,
didn't
"Hey,
think
I know
anything of
you."
it. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That makes it even more sad. Everyone's just like, hi, waving
Yeah.
goodbye to their neighbor's partner. Oh, my God.
So they continue to talk about it, and then they start talking about the surveillance equipment and how they took it. And then they also talk about the possibility that someone saw them burying the body in Joshua Tree National Park.
Holy crap. What?
Yes.
Their awful job.
So they were both arrested immediately.
Nice.
Ashley denied any involvement in Henry's murder, of course.
course.
She also doesn't know they have the wiretap on her phone and heard her basically confess to everything.
Of course.
So after detectives show her all of the evidence that they have on her, she changes her story.
Of course.
She wouldn't say the name of the person who killed Henry, so they tell her that they know she is talking about Curtis, and she
Yeah.
confesses.
Damn.
She broke down and said that Curtis hated the sexual relationship that she had with Henry.
So that she could get the pills.
She says that Curtis showed up and killed Henry in the garage. After the attack, they decided to cover up the crime and bury the body.
Badly, Jesus.
They rolled him up in a blanket and drove to buy shovels and then drove out to Joshua Tree National Park to bury the body.
I'm surprised they didn't use his credit card to buy the shovels, too.
So, in all of this, she wasn't really emotional when, like, telling them what happened.
Right.
So, it's a little weird.
Mm.
She said that Curtis was controlling and used the GPS on her phone to see where she was. She said that the morning of the murder, he tracked her to Henry's house and then just showed up.
Mm. I mean, you're cheating on him.
Yeah, and the phone records back that up, so that's true.
Okay.
They then questioned Curtis, and instead of talking, he gets a lawyer.
Of course.
So the Murrieta Police Department present the case to the district attorney's office, and they were told that there was more work to be done on the case. They needed more.
Okay.
They were told, go find more evidence. So since Curtis was in active service, the NCIS had jurisdiction over his actions.
Nice.
And said
See
that
booyaka.
said if the district attorney didn't press charges, that they would do it.
Good.
They would press homicide charges against him. So now Curtis was arrested and held in a military facility.
Wah, wah.
So now that he's been, arrested, NCIS was contacted by Curtis's cousin, and she said that he had tried to kill Henry Stange with a hammer back in January. So this is, remember, the one that prompted Henry to buy all the security cameras.
Right.
He didn't know who it was. He just knew he was attacked with a hammer.
Yeah.
So
he must have been with her back then, too.
Yeah. Okay. So investigators then asked Ashley what she knew about the hammer attack, and they offered her a deal to talk. So she agreed, and she said she did know about the January attack. She said that Curtis had started to be suspicious about her and Henry, and he made her take him to where Henry lived. He then grabbed a hammer out of his truck, broke into the house, and attacked him with the hammer and left him for dead.
Wow.
Curtis thought he killed him.
Yeah.
He didn't. She then said that she saw him take the hammer that he used and threw it into the desert. So she describes the area where he threw the hammer so NCIS crime analysts could go out to the desert to try to find this hammer.
Yeah.
They found the hammer. And it was definitely the hammer that was used in the attack because there was blood on the hammer.
Oh,
and
my
the
gosh.
hammer was bent like Ashley had told them. Yes.
That's how hard you...
I don't know how he lived.
That?
Yeah.
He was a badass. Well, obviously, he lived through getting drugged how far? Half a mile?
Yeah, this man.
That poor thing.
I know. So they now had physical evidence to connect him to the attempted murder and then show that he was completely capable of committing the actual murder months later.
Right.
So now state prosecutors felt that there was enough evidence to charge Curtis Kruger with the murder. And they decided not to charge Ashley Stapp for the murder. Even though she didn't have a part in the murder, she did help clean up the crime scene and dispose of the body.
Yeah.
So this is accessory after the fact in the state of California. So they charged her with that, and she pled guilty, and she was sentenced to 10 months in custody, 3 years probation, and a drug rehab program.
Okay.
Curtis Kruger was charged with second-degree murder, and the trial began in August 2020. So Curtis took the stand at his trial and denied being jealous of Ashley and Henry's relationship.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's pretty chill with that.
Evidence obviously shows otherwise. And he claims that he thought Ashley was being assaulted at Henry's house. So he went there and confronted him in the garage.
What?
Yeah. That's his. Oh, I thought he was assaulting her.
Oh.
But she went there willingly, dude. Like
her side dude.
Yeah. So he said that the two of them got into a fight and he fatally injured Henry. And he said, quote, "I thought he was trying to kill me."
Oh.
Yeah. So he was ultimately.
Like the first. Oh my
yeah,
God.
I know. He was ultimately found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 18 years to life in prison.
Okay.
So this is so sad. And we'll leave it off with this. So Henry's mother made a statement that a victim's advocate read, saying, quote, "It didn't matter to Kruger that he buried my son alive, alone in the desert. He was still breathing. Some part of him was holding on to life." Yeah.
I want to cry. That's so sad. How much shit does one person have to go through?
I know.
That is like the most unfair. It's so sad.
Yeah, and it was all because Ashley hooked up with him for his drugs. And she didn't even get anything, a slap on the wrist. I did see that she like violated her probation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't surprise me. And then she had to go to like I can't remember. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know if I believe her. I mean, I get that like he probably was controlling and probably knew that like she's going to this guy's house all the time, and he probably didn't have a drug problem, but she did. He probably was like, oh, she's just going over there to buy drugs because she has a habit, but not like, yeah,
that dude thinks you're in a relationship, so obviously she's not just going over there to buy drugs.
Yeah.
And so it's
I know. And but yeah, it's
wowie
crazy.
It's just so freaking sad.
I know.
All
right?
of these are sad,
but still,
some of them are just like the ultimate. Are you kidding?
He like loved her.
Yeah.
He, thought this was his like forever person, whatever. Like he really thought she loved him back like that, and I'm sure he didn't even know that she had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
But like his family knew about her, and so I just feel so bad for him. Like he just got used and beat up and left for dead, and then like I just think it's so sad that he wasn't even dead when he went in the hole.
Yeah, which is like,
but I mean, he would have died anyways. But still, like they didn't even wait for him to be dead.
I'm just hoping that like best case scenario is he lost consciousness and inhaled it as he was going.
Oh, I guarantee you, they probably thought he was dead. I don't know. It's really sad.
It really
yeah, I found that fact like at the end when I was researching, and I saw that statement, and I was like, oh my gosh, he was alive. And then I did more research, and I was like, yep, he was alive when he was buried. Probably barely, but yeah. So
how many of these it's so messed up and sad, are tied to some kind of a drug use or some kind of an addiction problem? That's so sad.
Yeah. Or abuse.
Yeah.
So yeah. So sorry.
That's okay.
No.
Poor thing. I would have loved to hear his radio show. Now I'm very curious.
I know. I'll see if I can.
How come somebody didn't like record it back then? I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. So. His name is Henry Stange, and I'm looking it up now.
And watch, it's like psychotic, political.
I think I found it.
Yeah.
Henry Stange talking about the hammer attack. I didn't do a deep dive into this. I'm sorry.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so maybe what we'll do is, like, you could add that, I guess. Ugh,
yeah.
That's kind of... No. Oh, yeah.
It's long.
Okay, it's...
Yeah.
So that's his voice.
Okay.
It was kind of, I think, that kind of thing. I don't think he's ever attacked somebody with a hammer before. And I think... I surprised him when I jumped up shouting like that, because I jumped clear up to the cushion of the couch I was sleeping on. I was getting to my feet almost.
Yeah, so there's a whole thing, but I don't know what his like handle is.
Yeah.
But yeah, he Henry Allen Stange, WA6RXZ.
Good job.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, his handle. But yeah, so
dang,
it's really sad, and this is their stupid faces. Yeah. I don't know.
Makes me so mad. They always look dumb. You're always just so mad. You're like, you look stupid.
Yeah.
You have a stupid face. I hate you.
Well, I guess leave you with that. So
you're welcome.
Yeah. With that, stay crafty
and not cry me.
Bye.